everybody, I'm Doc Ian. This is my Monday Miniatures Ramble for the 1st of February 2016, and this is one singular sensation. Well, no, it's the one single solitary miniature I've completed this week. I know, it really sucks to admit that. My painting has been really slow. Life. What you gonna do? Anywho, this is a Malifaux miniature. It's known as the Primordial Magic. It is the, well, a totem that can be used by any master in the Neverborn faction. And I think I got it pretty close to the artwork of the studio paint job. I went for a little bit more contrast, especially on the green. I think that looks better, honestly. What does not look better is the base. This base is very simple and abstract in the picture. My base is utter crap. But I thought I'd call attention to it just to explain my mistakes. What I did was I molded it, or well, sort of pressed it from a mold, namely one of my Wargames Bakery Basius basing stamp thingies. But I chose the wrong pattern. I chose what's, I think, supposed to be some sort of floor tiles with a very subtle pattern etched into it. It's kind of a floral pattern. And then I smacked down this figure in the middle of it, which had a rather large metal portion to it as a base, and squished most of the detail and obscured it and left the rest of it around the edges just looking off. It just doesn't look as if it belongs. So what I did to try to disguise it is to paint some sort of abstract, just blotches and swirls of colors, sort of like in the picture, though the picture has some sort of pentagram, I believe. And yeah, I'm just hoping that the miniature itself is eye-catching enough that you will not think about the base. Oh well. Yeah. I'm happy with the model itself anyway. Also, I did paint something else, which this is not a miniature. This is a piece of scenery. As you can tell, it's some sort of wannabe Excalibur thingy, a sword and a stone. It's kind of like an altar. Or, I don't know. There's like candles and flowers. So it's like somebody's treating it like a gravestone for some incomprehensible reason. And there's a rock here. I don't recall where I got this from, or what company it is, or when I bought it, or why. I just sort of found it in a box of stuff, and I thought it looked cool, and I decided to finish it up. I was inspired. So why did I say I only painted one miniature? Because, as I think I have mentioned before, I have stopped counting scenery as miniatures. Pieces of scenery and terrain are not included in my statistics this year at all. They're sort of off to one side. And, well, one reason is that it's really hard to keep track of. It's really hard to say what is one piece. You know, if you have a house with some fences, is the house one piece and the fence is another? If the fences come in 4 sections, is that one miniature of 4? But apart from that, also, I don't have much of a backlog when it comes to scenery and terrain. I tend to paint up almost everything I get in that regard as soon as I get it. So it's not an issue. It's not, like with miniatures, the reason I'm keeping track at all is that I want to try to reduce my backlog. I want to try to push myself to paint more than I buy so that I can reduce the pile of unpainted stuff. But as I said, with scenery, there is no such pile, really. So it's not an issue. Anyway, that is what's gotten completed. Let's take a look at stuff in progress. Progress at the point of a lance. Here he is charging at you. Yeah. This is my cavalry, heavy cavalry, and as per usual, I've started doing the messy stuff. I started with the dry brushing of the metallics and the dirt, and that's complete. Now it's just all the fiddly stuff left to do. I don't think I've described the full process of the metallics on this particular army. It's a fairly standard process, but it is a little bit involved. Quite a few layers of paint to get this effect that it's not perhaps immediately obvious. So there's an undercoat of black over the primer, then a very heavy dry brush of gunmetal, then a also rather heavy wash of a dark blue-green, then a somewhat lighter dry brush of chainmail, and finally a very, very light, just on the tips, highlighting dry brush of silver. So that's, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coats of paint over the primer to get this final effect. Maybe you could get there in a simpler way. I don't know. It's just the way I do things. Anyway, hopefully more will be done next week. Perhaps even you might see this unit complete. You'll just have to wait and see. Now time for a look inside my scenery studio. This here is the ruined temple building from Fenrir. I showed you in pieces last week. This was tricky to put together because I didn't trust just super glue to hold all these pillars in place, or for that matter these steps. So everything is pinned. There's a pin between the pillar and the base, and between the pillar and this piece here, and there's a pin for each of these steps. So that took a while. Prep took longer than painting, as is often the case. And then I had to decide a color scheme. This is not done. I thought about doing it the way Fenrir have in the picture on their online catalog. They have a sort of beige, sort of sandstone color. But, you know, I'm still in kind of Frostgrave frame of mind, so I decided to go for cool colors, basically, and this is like half done. I've done the dry brushing in a kind of cool gray, a blue gray, up to white on the extreme edges. I might want to do another pass of white, I'm not sure. But then I'm going to dirty it down because it's an old ruin. So, and that will be sepias and light browns to give a dirt effect, like it's been out in nature for a long time. Nobody's been sweeping the floors. And essentially, I think once a series of washes have been done, this will be finished. So, but I do think it'll take a series of washes, which means it's still a few hours of work because you need to let each wash dry very thoroughly before you apply the next one. Now, the next piece here is this tower, which was kind of difficult to put together. The seams did not fit very well. I had to use a lot of super glue accelerant to make it stick. It's only 3 pieces. It's the 2 sides of the tower and the top. I've done a lot of gap filling here, or rather seam filling. I hope it's enough. I hope it will not show up clearly. We'll see once I prime it. I didn't like the way the bottom, I didn't want the bottom of the resin to simply rest on a table, so I put it on a sort of base. And a lot of people build bases from a material called MDF, but I don't have access to wood cutting facilities. So I did something much lighter and simpler. It's this foam board that I've cut and then sort of roughly beveled the edges. I'm going to put some filler material on top here, probably some acrylic paste and some basing grits to make it look like dirt and to stabilize it a bit. And that will also take a good while to dry. Once that's done, I can prime and start painting. And as I said, I'll see after the primer layer whether I need to do more work on the gaps or if they're fine as is. That's not a gap, it's a window or an arrow slit. Anyway, that is as far as I've gotten with these pieces of scenery right now. Oh man, those stats look absolutely horrible, don't they? Well, the reason being that, as I've mentioned, I haven't gotten a lot of painting done this week, and also the last of my special Christmas orders arrived. Most of this was a really big order from the Wargames Foundry, which they had a big sale at Christmas, and so I picked up a lot of stuff. Most of this is animals. The only thing it's not is this collection of what we call Scary Santas. Again, special Christmas minis. I'm not going to show them off too much. But most of it, this stuff is just ordinary natural animals. And some of them, of course, I intended for Frostgrave. You know, you need dogs and wolves and bears and gorillas and stuff. Some just these alligators or crocodiles. I was planning to use as proxies for Bayou Gators before I actually got the new plastic kits for Malifaux. Oh well. We have here a boar. Well, two of them, and I think a little, yeah, it's a little baby pig there somewhere. Bears, a couple bears also with a little bear cub. What do we have here? More bears. These are bigger bears. I think these are brown bears. The smaller ones are black bears. And these are, maybe these are grizzlies. I'm not sure. And a couple of gorillas. These are wild dogs. These will probably be the first to get painted up because I need wild dogs for Malifaux, and I don't really have anything to suit that. I mean, anything else I can put in proxy. Maybe here's some big cats, leopards, I believe. More big cats, and 2 packs of wolves. I'm not gonna bother taking them out of the baggies. I mean, I think you can see through the plastic well enough. These Wargames, the Foundry miniatures, they're really high quality sculpts and casts in general, and I approve. I like them very much. The other smaller stuff that arrived is an order from a company called Infamy Miniatures. They have a game also called Infamy, and it's kind of a steampunk game. I don't own the game rules. I don't play the game, but I got 3 of their minis. I got the March family. This is, let's see, this is a guy called Paw March. I'll just bring out the body. He's got 2 arms with pistols in them. He's like a Wild West gunslinger. There's nothing particularly steampunk about him, really. He's not. Yeah. As you can see, these are resin as opposed to the metal of the reminiatures. Now, the ladies of the family are. I forget what this one's called. This girl is supposed to be a sniper. She has a, let's see, where is it? This is the rifle she's holding, and she's bracing it on a piece of scenery, and she's got this huge 50 mil base for it. we'll see if I need to use a 50mm base. That seems extreme. I'll see if 40 will do. But the main reason I bought any of these miniatures was this one. This is called Joe March. I'm not sure why. She's dressed kind of like a British officer when her father is an American cowboy. I don't quite see the connection. However, the reason I got this one miniature is for Strange Aeons. I've been the leader of my Strange Aeons Threshold group. As you know, Evelyn, she fights with a pistol and a torch, and I've been disappointed in the performance of the torch as a weapon. So this lady has a pistol in one hand and a sword, a 19th century saber, in the other. And pistol and sword would be a much, much better combo for a character in Strange Aeons. She also has this weird backpack I haven't quite figured out yet, which seems to have a couple of rifles strapped to it, or a rifle and a shotgun. It's this piece, it has to go on her back here somehow, but I am a little confused by it. It doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to me. Possibly because the resin is kind of a bit twisted. I might need to straighten it out a bit and cut away some of the excess stuff here. Now these are all also very nice sculpts and casts. The only issue I've had is I broke off one of these gutters, or cut off rather, and it took the tip of the scabbard with it. It was too weak there in the casting, and that means that if somebody were to measure and compare, they would see that the scabbard is actually slightly shorter than the sword. However, because she's carrying the sword up in her arm, I don't think people are going to make the comparison very much. I don't think people look closely at the scabbard of a miniature. That's not the main selling point. Yeah. So out of these, this is the one that has priority, and when I get around to it, I want to paint her up as a replacement for that Strange Aeons character. Anyway, this video has turned out to be rather long because of this impromptu unboxing. So I think it's time to wrap it all up. And until next week, I'm Dakian. I'm signing off.